A Chinese government official arrives home after a long day of work. The Korean War is in full swing and China is face to face with an American threat on the border. Chinese government officials start work early and finish late. Exhausted, the man runs a bath, hoping to relax before the chaos of the next day. This man's bath causes the People's Liberation Army to march into the Tibetan area of Chamdo, firmly cementing the nation's future as a satellite state of the PRC for the coming decades. If you are having some trouble connecting a bloke taking a bath with a nation over 2,000 kilometers away, let me introduce the resource that links them together. Good old-fashioned water. The source of the three longest rivers in China, the Yellow, Yangtze and Mekong, are all located within Tibet, which is why the nation is also known as China's water tower. And if you value your freedom as a nation, you really don't want to be known as China's water tower. China's annexation of Tibet is fueled by fear and uncertainty towards its most populous neighbour, India. China doesn't particularly fear India as a nation, especially as it now dwarfs it in GDP and military assets. What it does fear is the fact that if India really wanted to, it could turn off the taps for a majority of the Chinese population, with a simple occupation of its water tower. Obviously, if you are an emerging authoritarian superpower and one of the last socialist nations on the planet, the last thing you want is the source of your water being only a stone's throw away from a hostile power. So China did the most sensible thing it could do in order to preserve its current situation. They invaded the taps. The taps, of course, did not like being invaded. However, when you are a tiny nation only a few decades free from the previous Chinese government with zero military clout, you don't really have a say in the matter. As an observer from the outside, you may see China as a paranoid state, massively overreacting to its water source being in a historically neutral nation. However, apart from the obvious uses for water such as drinking and washing, water is used in massive quantities in an industrial nation such as China. To put it all into perspective, China's economy is 40% industry based as of 2017, including industries such as tanning, textiles and steel milling. 45 litres of water is needed to process a kilogram of raw hide into leather, while using water in the textile industry can range from 40 to 170 litres of water for every 500 grams of textile produced. Scale this amount of water up to Chinese industrial levels and you can start to see why they really don't want the taps to be turned off. The emerging issue of water scarcity isn't unique to China. If you cast your gaze over to Eastern Africa, then you can see a water conflict bubbling to the surface. The Nile is perhaps the most famous river in the world, right up there with the Amazon. 10 African nations within the Nile's basin rely on the 6,700 kilometre long river. The two big boys in the area are Ethiopia, which controls the source of the Nile, and Egypt, the country that doesn't control the source of the Nile and isn't very happy about it. Ethiopia has dammed up most of the river, and China, loving to have its neo-colonial hands in all the pies, has decided to fund a massive hydroelectric dam which will hold a majority of the water that fuels the Nile. Egypt is, understandably, not very happy about this. Most of Egypt's population lives within a few miles of the Nile, and with the taps of the Nile lying firmly in the hands of Ethiopia, the future of Egypt and the 9 other countries that depend on the Nile is now squarely in the hands of Addis Ababa. If a conflict over water was ever to happen, here wouldn't be a bad bet for it to occur. We are now entering the bit of the video where I shoehorn a rant about global warming into the video, so buckle up kiddos, it's time to learn about how things could be heating up for you, and it could affect your water. Climate change, like always, is here to fuck up your local water source. With increased global temperatures, water evaporation will increase, potentially leading to higher, intense rainfall that cannot be collected all at once compared to normal, prolonged rainfall. This means that areas that already have temperamental rainfall, such as the west coast of the USA, may face even more drought, as rain becomes more short-lived. However, for once, climate change isn't really the main problem when it comes to water, it's physically us as a species. Our modern lifestyles are massively water intensive. It takes 130 litres of water to produce enough coffee beans for, well, a cup of coffee. It takes 2,500 litres of water to make a t-shirt. As we grow as a species and more people gain access to goods due to the wonders of globalization, people will start to consume at record rates, and it won't be sustainable. NASA has identified 30 hotspots where fresh water is in particular danger, with areas such as California, India, central China and Iraq being hit the hardest. You may have noticed that a lot of people live in these areas, and by 2050 a lot more are due to live there. As consumerism grows in these areas and more water is used, the world could face massive water shortages, impacting up to 5 billion people. It will come as a shock to absolutely no one that the people who are impacted by drier areas becoming drier are also the poorest, who can't afford to move to another area. Water scarcity is creeping up on us, and not many people are paying attention to it. Well, apart from that one dude at the end of The Big Short, but he doesn't count because he's a filthy banker. To be honest, I don't really know how to end this video. I mean, things ain't looking good, but this isn't really anything new. At the end of the day, it's the poorest people in the water-deprived areas like Syria and Iraq that will be shafted the most by overpopulation and overuse of water, and until people start taking back the power of the resources and using them correctly, the future is looking pretty bleak. But until then, kick back and have a cold one. Because that's the best way to watch the world burn, or more accurately, dry out. While the intro card plays out, I'd just like to say thanks to everybody who subscribed from Veo's shoutout. It means a lot that over 1,000 of you like my bad content enough to subscribe to me. Also a quick reminder to, follow my Twitter, subscribe, like, all that jazz. Maybe I'll be active then and tweet some more, I don't really know. But anyway, don't really know how to end this video, so, just have a good one, guys.